Welcome to Integrity Inspire, your daily dose of inspiration and motivation, featuring the bright and talented members of the Integrity Marketing Group family. Now, here's your host, Integrity co-founder and CEO, Brian W. Adams.
Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining today's Inspire podcast. This is an exciting podcast. I want to introduce you to another incredible leader in the insurance industry, and I can't wait to hear her background. Here at Integrity, we have some of the most iconic women leaders that are in this industry, and we're adding another one to the Integrity family today. And so I'm so excited to introduce you to Marissa Mazziotti from Inspire Insurance Group. And I can't wait for you to hear her story. Now, her business is headquartered in Arizona, and they serve truly Americans all over the country. And this is another one of these young, dynamic leaders that came into our industry and took it over by storm. I'm so excited to be able to share her story with you and for you to get to know her as well. Marissa, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian.
Inspire. This is called the Inspire Podcast.
I know. Would you look at that?
Your company's name's Inspire. It was meant to be.
Totally meant to be.
Man, so you don't fit the traditional appearance of an insurance agent. I'm kind of more like, I've got this balding spot. I'm overweight, kind of boring. But you come in and you just take over a room and said, I'm going to recruit more people like me. And I love the passion you have for this industry. But your team is an incredible team. And I love the fact that we've got young, dynamic leaders coming into this business like yourself and others. What drew you into the insurance business?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, first of all, Brian, I wouldn't agree with any of those things you said about yourself. I think you're great. I think what drew me in is the ability that, and again, of course, we get to impact so many families, but from an agent standpoint and wanting to recruit a lot of people into the industry is just to show them that, you know what, there is more. I think there's a lot of people out there, whether it's this industry or just in life, that have a lot of people in their circle telling them, you can't or you shouldn't. And so I think when I saw this opportunity to be in the life insurance industry, impacting clients, also on an agent standpoint of showing people that, you can and you should. And I think what drew me to it is that there's enough for everybody, which I always thought was really cool. A lot of different corporations or organizations have these three positions or these three leaders or these three, really anybody can get into the insurance industry, life, health, any of that, and they can be a leader, they can be an agency owner, they can be a really, really key player, and there's never a limited amount. There's enough for everybody, and I think that's really awesome.
So what was the process of what were you doing before this, and then what was it like when somebody said, hey, you ought to look at this? How did that happen?
Yeah, great question. So I was working in medical transportation and logistics for Donor Network of Arizona, Donor Network of Nevada, which is basically the behind the scenes transportation of what happens when patients get organ transplants.
Right.
So I loved it. It was great. And for me, and I would still do that today. I think it was so impactful and I learned so much. But that industry was very much it's where it is. So for me, there wasn't really a next step or
it's pretty established.
Correct. They do what they do and that's how it's going to be because it works. So why would you change it, right? So there wasn't really a growth opportunity for me anymore. So I'm always somebody that's kind of motivated by how much more, who else can we serve? How much more can we impact? What's the next sort of step on the growth scale? And so I saw someone at my previous company that I had worked with, not in insurance, sent me a post on social media of a girl who worked with Family First Life and was in the insurance industry and was like, hey, you should check this out. I think you'd be really good at it. If they're doing it, you could do it. And I completely blew it off at first. I was like, there's just no way. I did think at that time that the only way to progress was, in the corporate ladder, go to school, get a degree, get another degree. So I was just like, there's no way that these people are so successful in the insurance industry. So I sat on it for about 3 weeks. And then finally I was just like, you know what? I don't have anything to lose. I might as well check it out. And she kind of challenged me. The girl that I had talked to, she was like, if you don't believe it or you're not sure, why don't you just get your license?
Yeah.
I'm always up for a challenge. So I was like, okay, well, now I feel like she's kind of testing me. So I'm going to get my license. And here we are 3 years later, and I've not looked back.
So in 2020, so kind of in the COVID side of things, it is amazing the success that you've had. You've built a very big business that's growing at a rapid rate, and you've done it in such a short time and in your 20s. It's remarkable to see. it's humbling to see people like you and so many others. And your team, I mean, your team that you're recruiting all look like you. They're young, dynamic, people who are educated. They're coming in and saying, I want to serve people. I asked you before we started, what's your number one passion in life, not just work? And I love the answer you gave. So I'm going to ask it one more time so that everybody hears it, because I've got a point to make, because I think this is an exciting opportunity of where we are as an industry, if we can find people with this. So tell us about your passion in life.
Yeah, I think it's just really serving people and being able to make an impact.
Yeah.
This industry and what we have here has the answers, I think, for so many people, right? Like everyone has different pain points in their life. And sometimes it's financial. Sometimes it's they don't feel they're part of something. Sometimes it's, I'm not making an impact on people. Whatever it is that I think is a pain point in their life, we can, a lot of times, we have a solution to that. And the industry's so good for that. And we get to go out every single day and, help families like mine and your family. I think that was really important to me. And I won't go on a tangent, Brian, but quick story. So my grandfather passed away when I was probably 10 or 11. And at that point I didn't know, but it was a good kind of transition period. So we had basically moved in with my grandma, or my grandma had moved in with us at that time. And they had this brand new car, Brian. And this was the car, we've never seen a newer car than this in my family, at all. So we thought it was bright blue. It was a Chrysler. And my grandpa had just got it before he passed away. And my sister and I were like, dude, we want to go to school in this car because this is so cool. We want to go everywhere in this car. We go to the grocery store. We just want to ride in it because it was the newest thing we'd ever seen. And my grandma said something to me one day, and she said, we'll just enjoy it while it lasts because they're gonna come get it. And we were like, I don't really know what that means. And I was like, it's ours. How can they take it away? And she's like, well, your grandpa got it before he passed and didn't leave me with anything, so I can't make the payments. So I haven't made the payments in 3 months. So enjoy riding in and out, but they're gonna come get it. And sure enough, they, a couple months later, they came and got it. And she just had always said, your grandpa was the best, but he, didn't leave me with anything. So I think in this industry, that always stuck with me. And I didn't really think about it until I got into it. And I was like, that makes so much sense why we moved in with grandma, why, we couldn't keep the car, things like that. And there was never an insurance agent or anybody that came out to talk to her about life insurance. And, I asked her about it now, and I'm like, did anybody ever call you? Did anybody ever come to the house? And she's like, no, no one really ever explained it to me. So I think in this industry in particular, it's so important to me to get to every family, no matter what their demographic is, where they live, or whatever it is, and just educate them about how, important things are.
Man, I love that story. I'm sorry it happened to you and your family, but I love that story. So I grew up in a funeral home. I remember being at, kitchen table, my mom and dad working, and then my mom and dad talking about this family who didn't have the funds to pay for a funeral. And sometimes it was people that you thought were very successful in town and all that, and just being like, and what are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? And death is one of those equalizers that everybody's equal. We're all going to die at some point. And you've got to prepare for that. And it's hard to get people to think about that. But for me, it was such a big part of that. And we were talking about your age earlier and just being so young, dynamic in this business. And I remember I was in college, and people make fun of me all the time, so I'm going to let you make fun of me. But so I worked at Eddie Bauer. I wasn't good looking enough or cool enough to get on at the Gap, which was cool back then, or Abercrombie and Fitch. Listen, if you could get on at Abercrombie, I wasn't getting on at Abercrombie. I couldn't even wear most of their stuff. But anyway, so I'm the dude who's somebody comes in and they look at shirts and then they move on and they, just looking around and anything. And I was the dude who came back and folded the shirts and stacked them. And I can fold a shirt as well as anybody in the world because I was doing it so much. And this guy came in, super sharp dressed guy, good looking older gentleman, gray suit, white shirt, red tie. And we just hit it off. And he goes, man, you seem like you really like working with people. You love what I do. And I go, what do you do? And you could tell he'd been successful. And he said, I sell life insurance. I go, dude, I grew up in a funeral home. Why don't people plan for this more? And so he kind of led this discussion. And he said, you should come out and see what it's like. So I went and got my license. I was in college. I was going into houses where I was door knocking. Like I was literally like door knocking. Hi, Miss Smith, can I come in and sell you life insurance? You're going to die. It wasn't quite that bad of a presentation, but it was close. But it was interesting. Like, I mean, I'm talking to people my grandparents' age and working with them, but I had such a passion for it because I knew the purpose. And that's where I think this opportunity right now in our industry, I love how you said it earlier about everybody has an opportunity. This is a virtuous business. And it creates like this virtuous cycle that means everybody wins in this business. A lot of businesses are I win, you lose. It's binary. In integrity, and in the insurance industry, everybody wins. The carrier wins, the agent wins, the agency wins. Ultimately, the consumer has to win. And then it's this flywheel effect that as you serve more people, everybody wins even more. And it's a noble profession. Like I don't, like when you deliver a check to where a senior doesn't have to worry about their car going back, right? Or, I've got so many stories as you do that people that we've helped along the way, and you give them hope for the good days ahead in such a big way that it's such a noble business. And I think millennials get a bad rap. And I'll go on a little bit of a tangent here, but millennials, people think are lazy, entitled, trophy generation. Look, some of that is true, but I think every generation's had some of that. But what I find is in the millennial generation, they're incredibly smart. They want to have a purpose in what they're doing. They want to work for something that does it's better than, it's not just about making money. They want to make money, but they want to have a purpose to it. That's why like Tom Shoes did so well. Bombas, the underwear place where you buy a pair of underwear and they give a pair of underwear to homeless people. That's why they do so well. These kind of cause companies, they don't want to work in the traditional way where it's in 9 to 5 and stuff that I grown up in. And they want to have like unlimited opportunity for their time, for their money, for their family, for everything. And that's where I see you coming in the business and so many others. And I have so much hope for this industry because you see the purpose of it and your generation. And you have this opportunity and we're excited to partner with you now because we want to give you a bigger megaphone because everybody needs these opportunities. We need to serve more people, but we also need to serve more agents. Out there are people who are working at a medical transportation company going, man, is this all I got? And then looking at something that you might not have ever thought was interesting, you go, man, this is an incredible business. And so as you're recruiting people, because your team, and you've brought a lot of your team in here, we've been talking for years. I mean, your team are young, dynamic, sharp, educated, passionate people. What is the key to going and recruiting more people like you?
Yeah, I love that, Brian. And just to kind of hit, I think that some, like what you said about millennials, some of that is true. But also I think there's a lot of advantages that younger people have in this marketplace for the simple fact of like, I used to think that, lack of experience or, not having been around, the insurance industry for as long as some of these other people have was a disadvantage. But the reality is a lot of it's like what you don't know, you don't know. So a lot of younger people that are going out and talking to these families and they actually don't have all this crazy, sales experience, and they don't have these they're just kind of showing up real and raw. This is who I am.
Right.
I don't necessarily have I just care about people. I love people. I can help your family. I know I can help your family. And I think that's kind of advantageous to them, right? Like a lot of people, a lot of clients sometimes can be scared of the sales guy, or they can be scared of the guy in the suit and tie with the briefcase who's, been doing this for 20 years. So a lot of times they feel really comfortable. Clients feel really comfortable with that younger person coming up like, hey, I'm in, casual-ish clothes. I'm just here to help you out. I'm not here for any other reason. And I think for, young dynamic leaders, I think that's really advantageous for us. And going out and recruiting, just like what you said, I think we are in an age where people want purpose, they want to make an impact, and they want to be an entrepreneur. They want to have their own time freedom. They want to decide. They want to be able to help people while also helping their own family. I think that's huge right now. It seems like everybody is in a phase where they want to kind of run their own deal and they want to not have a cap, right? Like kind of like I was talking about earlier, like they don't want to say, hey, what's the next position that's available for me, or what's like, they're just like, they want to take it and run with it, and they want it to be theirs, and they want to have ownership. I think ownership is a big deal, to say, you know, this is mine and this is what I created and this is what we created, and we can decide, or I can decide for my business what I want our core values to be, what I want to represent, what I want our agents and our culture to represent. And from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I think that recruiting I think it's great, because I think so many young people are looking for that.
So what do you say to somebody? I mean, your team is made up of, just an amazing group of people. What do you say to them when you say, I'm in the insurance business, and this is something you should look at? Like, because they're not thinking, you weren't thinking about that that's when you said you blew your friend off, because you're like, I'm a medical transportation executive, and you have that kind of pride of that. What do you tell somebody that's like yourself to say, this is an industry you should listen to?
Yeah, I think the first thing is a lot of it is that kind of like attraction marketing. Social media is obviously huge. So a lot of times before that, I'm connected with them in some way, shape, or form, and trying to, I think, convey the message in our marketing that it's not the way it was, 50, 60, 70 years ago. Right. That maybe, insurance agent doesn't necessarily sound like a sexy career, because people are like, who wakes up and they're like, I think I want to be an insurance agent. Not that many people. We all kind of found ourselves here, right? So I think that's the first step. But then when I talk to them, really what I'm trying to do is, I'm not really trying to convince anybody. I want to find out about their life. And if there is something that they're not super happy with, that this can solve. So a lot of times, like I said, sometimes it's financial, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's, hey, I don't get to spend a lot of time with my kids. So a lot of the recruiting for me is not, necessarily like question by question interview process. It's like, hey, how are you? What are you doing? What's your family situation? Do you like it? Do you love it? What's going on? And then when I present that opportunity, I think I talk about mostly the unlimited growth, right? People don't want to sit in an office all day. Generally, they don't want to say, hey, this is my plan for the next 30, 50, 60, 70 years, right? They're like, how do I create something in 3 to 5 years, working really, really hard, so that way I can have more freedom and go over here and do this other. So I think that's what I talk about, the growth, the fact that it is actually really fun, Brian. Like, I love going to team lock-ins, going to team events. Like, when you say insurance agent, people are like, do you sit at a desk all day? And I'm like, I sit at a desk never. Like, I'm either sitting with families, sitting with agents, I'm at a conference, I'm, even small little stuff like, hey, the team's going out for dinner, right? And just getting to know them. And you get to travel a lot because you can do business anywhere in the country. They want that life. They're like, I want to be able to help clients from Florida. I want to be able to help them in Hawaii. I want to be able to go see my family back in Montana and know that I can call up my clients and agents and do what I need to do. So I think that's kind of the stuff I'm talking about, is kind of like whatever you want for your life. I think you really can shape that through this industry.
And you're working with amazing companies that have the financial wherewithal to really do some incredible things. I mean, the carriers that we work with are some of the biggest companies in the world. I mean, they're amazing at what they're doing, and that's where it also has that credibility factor, that it's the biggest industry most people aren't thinking about, and they're not teaching in colleges, certainly not in high schools, about like the financial freedom you can gain, but also the passion for serving people. And that's where I do think the millennial generation wants all those different things, but they also want to have a purpose. So my wife, if you talk to Robin, she's not going to buy Louis Vuitton, Gucci, and all that stuff. She's not going to buy all that stuff. But you take her somewhere that has a purpose, and it's a basket made in Africa from a lady who was, abused, and this is her way out. Or a lady who's, a group of ladies who are making earrings that they got out of a trafficking issue, and this was their way out. Or these things with purpose. She doesn't buy one. She buys 20, and then she gives everybody a Christmas gift or a holiday gift and says, I got to tell you the story behind these earrings. I need to tell you the story behind this basket. And if you think about the stories that we create of the people that we help, it's amazing. One of my best friends that died, he had 2 little kids. The fact that we were able to help his family with a claim check of $500,000. Now, I wish it had been $5 million, but that $500,000 gave them their life back. and help them through such a different part, like a challenge. And that's where just even telling those stories more about your grandmother and just the ability, like, this happened to her, man, don't let this happen to your family, I think is just such a powerful part of what we do that also attracts people. If you have a heart of service and you really are willing to work hard, man, you can really help so many people in this industry. Now, I understand your work ethic came from your mom. What lessons did you learn from her?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny because now my sister and I are older. We talk about her a lot, and we're like, it didn't make any sense.
I hope my kids see me as cool one day.
It took us a while to get her. Like, that didn't make any sense when we were younger. So my mom was a single mom. So she just raised me and my sister by herself and with the help of my grandma. And she worked in the service industry most of her life. So, bartending, restaurants a lot. But I think one of the biggest things I learned from her is her heart to serve. But even more than that is she is just like not above anything. You know what I mean? Like she was like, you could call her today and be like, hey, you know what, we have a job downstairs that needs the bathrooms cleaned and needs this and this and that. And she'd be like, I could do that. And you could also call her and be like, hey, the president position for the CEO of Integrity is opening up, and she'd probably be like, I could do that.
It's not open up.
So she just is like so resilient in that way that like no matter what, she knew that like she just had to get it done. She wasn't above anything. She would do anything anybody asked her. And so I think that always stuck with me a lot. Like you're never, don't get too big to do the small things. It speaks a lot to like being in the trenches with your team and doing what you're asking other people to do and having these experiences yourself when you're trying to teach them. Every time I was just talking with my sister about this, like every time I got a job when I was younger, because she also made us work when we were very young, it was because she took me there and was like, hey, this is where I work. Yeah. So like, I'm going to train you to work here too. Like if I'm working in the restaurant, you're working in the restaurant. I'd be like, Mom, I'm 12. But no, literally. And so I think I learned that. And also her heart to serve and like attention to detail that, people would be like, oh, just a bartender or just a server or just this. And I never looked at it like that. Like my mom would know, hey, at 3 p.m., Bob and Mary are coming in. They're going to sit at that table over there. You have to put a fresh pot of coffee on because he won't drink it if it's not hot. And he's going to order this and make sure you put the lemons. Like everything about every single person. Yeah. And even to this day, like she's still like that. Just so wanting to make service her top priority and make sure that whoever she's around just has like a really good experience. And she's always kind of putting her best face forward. So
I love that. And that also makes you more loyal to going back there. Mm-hmm. There's a Mexican food place that we go to way too much. We go because of the people. Mm-hmm. The food is all about the same, but when you walk in, you feel like family. Yeah. And I tell the guys and gals this all the time. In fact, it was humbling. One of the guys went back to Honduras, where he's from, for a couple of weeks vacation, and we showed up, and he was like, hey, I've got something in my car for you. And he comes out and he brings me this clock that he got. There was a hand-carved clock in Honduras. And he's like, I just thought about you, and I thought you would like this clock. And I was like, oh my God, dude! Like now I even like you more. But it's so the attention to detail and just that, building those relationships. It all comes. Any business really comes back down to people, right? And if you take care of the people, then all the other stuff takes care of itself. And that's such a great lesson you learned from your mom. Now, I understand you grew up in Montana. What part of Montana did you grow up in?
I actually grew up on both sides of the state, but more recently, like I actually grew up in a town called Big Fork, but that's up like in the Flathead Valley.
And how did you guys end up in Montana?
My family, my mom's side actually grew up in California, and my grandpa was a truck driver. And so they said, hey, basically, this is, right before probably I was born, there's more work up there for truck drivers in Montana. So they went there, and
it's such a beautiful state.
It's so beautiful.
It is so amazing. I mean, it's one of the most amazing places. The hiking, the skiing, the outdoor stuff is just one of our favorite places is Montana. We love to go like to Whitefish or Big Sky. Yeah. Golly, it's so pretty. Now, I know you like to hike. So when you hike, we were recently up in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and we were on a hike, and they were saying like, just watch out for bears, right? And I was like, what do we do if we see a bear? And they were like, you run at it and scream because most likely you'll scare it away. And I was like, bro, that is not happening. Like, and I'm like, what? So do you carry bear spray?
I do carry bear spray.
Yeah. Have you ever had to use it?
I have never had to use it, but it's because, Brian, I listen when people tell me, like, you need to be loud, you need to make a lot of noise on the trail.
I know.
So most of the time, anything bad happens with a bear, it's because they were startled.
Bro, I was so scared. My youngest, like, started running ahead, and I couldn't see him. And I was like, dude, you've got to come back. We got to stay together. Like, it was like right when we were going up, I was like, maybe we should have thought about this. Where is a bear spray? But I don't know if I would have the courage to use it. I certainly wouldn't have the courage to run at a bear.
I think you'd have. I think you would. I mean, when you're in that position, I think you'd probably do whatever you
you got to do.
You got to do whatever you got to do.
Have you ever seen a bear like while you're hiking?
I have seen bears, yes.
Wow.
But more like far enough away that I'm comfortable.
That's when you like respect God's creation in a different way, where you're like, man, that's an apex predator. Like, you gotta
I'm nothing compared to that.
Nothing compared to that. Now, one of the things I love about your business and what you're building is really how you focus on culture as one of your big passions as well. And you've got such a strong team. You have such great agent support. I think that comes a lot from the experiences we just talked about. But those are our core values as well. It's about integrity. It's about family. It's about service. It's about respect. It's about partnership. And it's all about people and culture and everything we try to think about every day. How do you see this partnership helping you continue to build that out?
Yeah, I think it's going to help in, tremendous ways. But honestly, Brian, what is done here at Integrity and the core values is how we try to build our agency, is basically what you guys do. And, to give a perfect example, like this partnership could happen, and I think a lot of different entities or a lot of different organizations, and like the new partner wouldn't even like know who the CEO was or get a chance to talk to him or meet him, And so I feel like, and I'm not going to, but I feel like I could call you on a Saturday and have a business related question or say, Brian, I need help with something because you're here in the trenches, and the whole Integrity family is like that. So I think, moving forward, that's, from you guys down, it kind of taught us that and instilled that in us. And what we've tried to replicate in our culture is that, our leaders are here with you. We do it too. We're in the trenches, and also just like making people feel really empowered. I weirdly, for the culture of our team, I never was really concerned with people saying like, oh, she sold the most premium in a month. She's like the top salesperson of the month. I really wanted them to say like, I really trusted her. I trusted that she had my best interests at heart. I trusted that if I need something, she would be there. She would make me feel really inspired or really, motivated. She made me believe I could do it when nobody in my life was really like speaking life into me. So those are all the things that were important to us. And I think as we go forward with Integrity in this partnership, I think that's all still there and now even magnified because we get to see that, from the Integrity family. And just, the agent resources, I think too, Brian, are pretty much like, I was just sitting out here and talking to these guys and they're showing us all this stuff that now we have access to. A lot of people have like a lot of ego, Brian, so they'll be like, I could create that. Like, I could not create any of the stuff. Word even like, I don't know anything about lead generation. I'm not going to try to generate leads. The marketing center, like everything that you guys have done in order to make it easier to serve more clients from the agent standpoint, I think is huge. And I think it takes so much off of us that we can just go out and serve families and do what we do best with agents and families and have you guys to support. I don't see how we don't, 10X.
I love it. Well, and I say we're just getting started all the time. People kind of chuckle when I say that. Not sure why, but it's maybe because I say it so many times. And the truth is, I believe that we're just scratching the surface. Oh, and when we find people like yourself, we find other young, dynamic leaders and other iconic leaders who also have joined us. And you think about where we're going, I just believe that we are just scratching the surface and we're just getting started. And that's why I'm so excited to have you join us here. And any ideas that you have, we want to take those so that we can take those to the next level. In fact, we even asked you on even our social media strategy recently, and we said, hey, will you come in and give us some ideas? So you were with Ann and the team of going, like, here's some things you should do that are a little bit more cutting edge. And I'm like, let's get the best ideas from everybody. So thank you for already serving us in so many ways. And we're excited to serve you and your team to help you even grow faster. So can't wait to see where we go from here.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. Really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you see why we're so excited to partner with Marissa, her team, this opportunity. I think we can learn so much from Marissa and people like her that are coming into this industry with kind of a new vision for the future and this new opportunity that we've been building out, but they're taking it to the next level. And so I hope you're as inspired as I am by her company, Inspire, and this podcast, being able to share the story. There is no limit to what we can do. And if we really have that heart of service in everything that we're doing, truly about helping people, this is the most noble profession in the world. And we serve so many people every day thanks to all the hard work that you guys do. And I can't wait to see where we go from here. Hope everybody has an amazing week. God bless you all, and can't wait to get back together very soon. Take care.